So, boys, for this next part, about 2 months ago, at the mid-season point, we said we were going to do our award picks. And boy, were we off with our picks to now.
Just a little bit.
Let's
Where
give them a
we're
reminder
closer.
what they were.
Okay, so first we're going to start with Comeback Player of the Year. Our picks, me and Nick went with Kirk Cousins. Dom, you went with Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have put a screenshot down so that we can see it and you guys can see it in front of you, what the leading names are now and what the odds are based on MGM, DraftKings, and FanDuel. Now, I know the betting odds don't mean necessarily it's going to happen,
But it
but
gives
it
you some idea.
likely
Yeah.
always translates to what actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
And now here's the leading list for Comeback Player of the Year. I'm going to read it to you guys, and then I want you to go based off this list what you genuinely think is going to happen. So first, we have Joe Burrow as the leading candidate for Comeback Player of the Year. Following that, we have Sam Darnold, J.K. Dobbins, Kyler Murray, Anthony Richardson, and Russell Wilson. I think it's safe to say you can write Anthony Richardson right off that list.
Yeah.
And Kyler Murray, sure, but I don't really consider that. I think your top three are literally Joe Burrow, Sam Darnold, J.K. Dobbins.
Agreed.
So
You can argue Russ still if you want, but
I'm going to go right into my pick, and I'm sticking with my guns here. I'm
You
going to
are?
stay with Russ,
you
and
think
this
there's
is
a
why.
legitimate case for him to make this
I
still?
think so, and I think it's because he may not be the best of all these players, but I think he's turned his career around the most of all these players. I mean, he left the Broncos in Denver pretty much. I mean,
yeah.
awful. I mean,
I just fear, especially if the Steelers fall flat on their face in the playoffs, all of this goes out the window.
there's a chance of that. But getting back to my point, I look at Joe Burrow, and yes, Joe Burrow's coming off an injury and playing absolutely
He's playing the
amazing
best
football.
football of
I
his career.
love Joe Burrow, and I love what he's doing. I'm rooting for the Bengals.
If he
And-
can't win the MVP, he's going to win this year Offensive Player of the Year.
He has to.
Yeah. So, with that being said, Sam Darnold's done a lot too.
I love
But
Sam Darnold's story right now.
I
I'm
love
sorry.
Sam
I'm
Darnold's
so
story,
behind the
but
Vikings. It's not even
look
funny.
at who he's surrounded by. I mean, we
That's
can
true.
argue the same with Russ
Same with Burrow.
and Burrow too.
Yeah.
But
You have
Offensively-
Jamar Chase,
offensively,
T. Higgins.
Yeah.
Chase Brown may not be huge name value, and Mike Gesicki may not be
He's
huge
playing
name
very
value,
well.
but he's playing damn good football.
yeah,
So you're sticking with Russ.
I'm sticking with Russ.
Nick, where are you at?
I'm gonna go Joe Burrow. I
I
am.
think it has to be.
He's playing out of his mind right now. He's like dragging. I mean, me and you saw it on Saturday.
Yeah.
He's
So
dragging this team to wins.
I was gonna say they were 4-8 4 or 5 weeks ago, and now they're
8-8.
8-8 at 500.
crazy.
And I would have thought 5 weeks ago this team would not win another football game. It would just be offensive shootouts where they can't keep up because of the defense.
We're gonna
Joe
game against
Burrow
the Chargers.
is insane. Joe Burrow is the Bengals offense, and Joe Burrow is what's going to keep this team afloat for as long as he plays football.
Yep.
And if he can't win the MVP award, I want him to win this or Offensive Player of the Year. And that's where I would switch my pick to Joe Burrow, and I agree with the betting odds. This guy has to win Comeback Player of the Year this year, especially with the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks of performances. Now, following that, for Defensive Player of the Year, I thought this was another interesting one. So me and Nick went with Dexter Lawrence, and we all kind of agreed in the same range with the Trey Hendrickson boat.
Yeah.
Now, the list has kind of changed drastically. Even this morning, I took the screenshots last night.
Yeah.
So, according to, I want to say, Sportsbook Review, TJ Watt was the lead for Defense Player of the Year. Now, as of this morning, it's Patrick Surtain, then TJ Watt. I think it's Andrew Van Ginkel. I don't know if that's his first. Is it?
Yes, it is.
It is? Okay. And then Kirby Joseph, which hell of a season he's having. In last 2 seasons, I'm going to say. Dirty player or not. Then Myles Garrett, Will Anderson, Trey Hendrickson, and then our guy Nick Benito, who has fallen off a little bit just because he hasn't had as much productivity the last few weeks.
He's still getting pressures.
But he is tons of that. That's a stat that goes unnoticed.
Exactly.
But your previous picks were Nick Bosa and Trey Hendrickson. Now you again could still go Trey Hendrickson, but now it's been completely skewed.
Yeah.
About 9 weeks later.
So I just want to point out that both my picks for both these were still on the list at this point. I just want to point that out.
Nick Bosa's not on there.
Well, yeah, but Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah,
is.
Trey Hendrickson's on there. Oh, you mean both as in comeback?
Yeah. Trey
Oh,
Hendrickson
you're right.
and
You are
Russell
right. You
Wilson.
are right. Yeah.
Still on the list. I mean, they're both at the bottom.
So now my question is, they've fallen off a little bit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
now that's my question: is do you still stick with him too? Do you think, be realistic here?
So
Because he's not making as much
I
an impact
can't-
Is
anymore
he
on
a
the defense.
game-changing
But
player?
exactly. This award needs to be to a... Because here's the argument around PS2 now. The defense can't operate without him. The defense operates the way it is because of how special Patrick Surtain is.
you put a star receiver on PS2, and you see that receiver get completely shut down.
Jamar Chase had 27 receiving yards when lined up against Patrick Surtain
On
this
43
week.
snaps.
On 43, yeah.
That's crazy. And then he had finished the game with 100 yards.
Yeah, and that means that Riley Moss
Riley
got
Moss.
torched.
He,
I can't
Sorry,
see
buddy.
giving this award to TJ Watt. Like,
So
I love TJ Watt.
I love TJ Watt, and I
I love what he
love the
does.
family. I love the name value. The reason he's in consideration for this award, Steeler fans, come at me. I know you guys in the TikTok comments love it. The only reason his name is here is because he got gypped by Myles Garrett 2 years ago and last year. So does that mean Patrick Surtain should get gypped too? And I know I'm biased. I'm wearing the orange and blue. But does that mean that a guy like Patrick Surtain should get gypped too because TJ Watt needs to win it this year?
No.
Because he's not leading in sacks.
It's not defensive player of last year. It's defensive player of the year.
And I've heard countless times that the Broncos defense operates a special way because of their corner. And PS2 is a one-of-a-kind corner. That conversation with him and Sauce has been thrown out the fucking window since the season started.
Think about John Gruden. He calls this defense the anonymous crush, right? You know the only player who's not anonymous? Pat Surtain.
So who's your pick now
So
late season?
with that being said, I'm gonna do what I did before, and I'm gonna pick two people for this one.
Shit, okay.
And I'm gonna stay with Trey Hendrickson, and this is why. You think of the Bengals defense. You think of a defense that's absolutely horrible. It's not winning. It's not allowing
Not like they used to.
the Bengals to perform how they should be performing, especially with their explosive offense. But there is one player that always sticks out on that defense, and tell me who that player is. Leading sacks in the league right now. It's Trey
It
Hendrickson.
would be Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard. Yeah, I mean obviously way more than Sam Hubbard.
Sam
but-
Hubbard's out for the year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're
So-
right. You're right. Yeah.
So, with that being said, I'm going to say one of my picks is going to stay Trey Hendrickson,
Mhm.
and I'll give it to you guys. Patrick Surtain the second will be my
I
second
mean he's
pick.
playing away a corner hasn't played.
And that's
in
just because you think of the
Unreal.
Broncos defense. Who do you think of?
Patrick Surtain.
Pat Surtain.
Exactly.
And the reason that we have so much time to get pressure in the backfield is because there's nothing open. The windows are tight, especially now that Riley Moss is finally kicking up speed. I mean, granted, this week was a little slow because of the injury. So
Hopefully because of the injury.
hopefully it was because of the MCL. So, Nick, I'm assuming you're going to go PS2 at the pick.
100%.
I would have went Nick Benito any other week prior to this week. But because the sacks are not there, because the tackles are not there, QB pressure is a beautiful stat, and I love it, and I'm glad that he's contributing. I want stats that are meaningful. I want stats that are game-changing. I want stats that are going on the
And
sheet.
consistent.
And consistent, and that's the key. And that is Patrick Surtain's entire career thus far. So for that, I think PS2 is the bona fide defensive player of the year.
I mean, he's played 2 games against Jamar Chase and allowed a whopping 30 yards combined.
That's crazy. That means he only let up 3 the last time he ever lined up, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
That's
the first it was their rookie year.
Meanwhile, Sauce Gardner will let up 100 yards, but if he gets one pick, he's number 1 corner
He's
in the
the
league
best
because
player
his name
of
is
all
Sauce.
time.
Get out of here.
People want to call him Ahmad now because he's playing so bad.
I would
Take his
too.
nickname away.
Take away his nickname. He ain't got the sauce no more.